Hello everyone, my name's Penny and I'm from the East Herts Family Centre in Bishop Stortford, and I've come with you to share a story today. It's sitting here ready. But first of all, let's say hello to everyone because there's so many of you out there. Friends I've met before, new friends I can see, and I think it's just wonderful if we can all just say hello. So when I count 3, I want you to say your name so everybody is introduced to all of you. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3, Penny. That's it. So everybody has met everybody else and we can sit down ready to listen to the story. I hope you're comfortable because I am. Are we ready? Today's story is called Mrs. Armitage on Wheels. And the author, the person who wrote it, is called Quentin Blake. Now, Quentin Blake is also an illustrator, which means he draws the pictures himself. So he writes books and he draws pictures for his own stories as well as drawing them for other people. You might recognise some of his type of pictures, so have a look when you read other stories. So as I said, Mrs. Armitage on Wheels. And I can see, and can you see what sort of wheels she is riding? Yes, a bicycle. Let's find out about her. Mrs. Armitage was on her bicycle and Breakspear the dog ran alongside. A hedgehog walked across the road. Tring, tring, went Mrs. Armitage on her bell. Said Mrs. Armitage to herself, what this bike needs is a really loud horn. So Mrs. Armitage bought 1, 2, 3 horns, and they were all very loud. Beep, beep, honk, honk, beep, honk, went Mrs. Armitage on her horns. Oh, I think they are loud. They've frightened those ladies there, haven't they? Oh, then the chain fell off. By the time Mrs. Armitage had got it on again, her hands were all black and greasy. Don't know about you, I don't like dirty hands. What this bike needs, said Mrs. Armitage to herself, is somewhere to wash your hands. So she got a bucket of water and a towel and a soap rack with a bar of soap, and she hung them all on her bike. And then she went off with beautifully clean hands. Have a look at yours. Are yours clean? I thought so. Said Mrs. Armitage to herself as she cycled along. If it's to be looked after properly, this bike needs a complete toolkit. So she got a toolkit with spanners and screwdrivers and hammers and cans of oil, and she fixed it to the back of the bicycle, and off she went. Can you see she's using some of those tools to put it on? Her bucket of water went on the front of her bicycle. By now Mrs. Armitage was beginning to think about food. Said Mrs. Armitage to herself, what this bike needs is somewhere to carry a light snack. So she got a tray for apples and bananas, cheese and tomato sandwiches, and a holder for a bottle of lemonade and a flask of cocoa. And of course, a special basket of bones and dog biscuits for Breakspear. And she fixed them all to the bike. And off they went. Can you see Breakspear? He's looking up at that basket of biscuits for him. And can you see, has she put that to the front of the bike or the back? Yes, the back of the bicycle. But you know, by now, poor Breakspear was beginning to feel a little tired because of all that running along beside that bicycle. And you could tell he was, because his tongue was hanging out and he was panting. If you've got dogs, you've seen them, you know that when they get hot and tired, they do put their tongues out and they pant away. Said Mrs. Armitage to herself, what this bike needs is something for a faithful dog to ride on. So, she got some iron brackets, some nuts and bolts and some cushions, and she made a seat for Breakspear, and off they went. Oh, that does look comfortable, doesn't it? And of course, yeah, you know, it's at the back of the seat of the bicycle, isn't it? Well, they had stopped beside the road for some sandwiches and some dog biscuits when it began to rain. Oh, good heavens, said Mrs. Armitage. What this bike needs, Breakspear, is something to keep the rain off. Can you see them? There they are. It looked a lovely picnic too, didn't it? So she got 2 umbrellas. One large umbrella and one small one. Who do you think the large one's for? Yes, of course, Mrs. Armitage. And the small one, yes, is for Breakspear. And so she fixed them onto her bicycle and off they went. I must say, Breakspear looks really comfortable on the back of that bike. Well, riding through the rain, Mrs. Armitage began to feel a little bit downhearted. I mean, she was not feeling very happy, perhaps just a little bit sad. Said Mrs. Armitage to herself, what this bike needs is a bit of cheerful music. So she got her radio and a cassette player and lots of cassettes of cheerful music and a mouth organ so that she could join in. And she fixed them all to the bike, all to the front of that bike. Well, Mrs. Armitage was turning the pedals so fast and blowing the mouth organ so hard that soon she was nearly exhausted. Said Mrs. Armitage to herself, what this bike needs is a bit of extra oomph. Oh, I like that word. Can you say that word? Oomph. It means just a little bit of extra energy, something to just to help you along your way. So she got some wood and some ropes and some tarpaulin. And she rigged up a mast and a sail, and she added a few yards of bunting and an anchor into the bargain. Oh, her bicycle's looking a little bit more like a boat now, isn't it? Well, and off they went with the wind behind them. Faster, faster. And you join in. Yes, faster and faster until, I wonder if you have guessed what might be going to happen now. Yes, crash, crunch, clang, clatter, thud and peep-er, as Mrs. Armitage landed on one of her loud horns. Oh, said Mrs. Armitage as she picked herself up from the wreckage, what this bike needs, Breakspear, is taking to the dump. Oh, look at that bicycle. It's just all in pieces. Look, and there's the man come to take it in his truck. I'm looking at that face. Can you see what sort of face that is? Yes, it's a thinking face. Can you make a thinking face? That's it. Put your fingers just by your chin. A thinking face. And what I need is... Oh, what do you think she needs this time? What do you reckon? Whoopee! Can you see what she's on? Yes, she's on roller skates. But our story doesn't end quite there. Can you imagine what you think she might be going to say next. Yeah, I think these fingers might come into somewhere. Yes, there she is. Said Mrs. Armitage to herself. What these roller skates need, what these roller skates need is. And that is the end of that story. But I wonder if you can think, what do you think Mrs. Breakspear might need for her roller skates? Have a little think about that, and maybe one day you'll be able to share that with me and tell me what you think. I'm going to have a little think about that. So I'm going to say goodbye to you while I have a think, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.